A commotion downstairs. Despite last night's act, Rook was neither drunk nor particularly tired. The advancement had granted him an incredible fortitude. So when he heard the sound of breaking glass and shouting through the floor, he was up and awake almost instantly. He hefted his weapon, then kicked Zeke's cot with one foot. Zeke woke on the third kick and spasmed, shoving violently at the empty air. He looked as though he were about to shout at Rook for waking him, until he heard the screaming. Rook couldn't make out the words, though the hostility was plain enough. They snuck out into the hall, Rook moving far quieter than anyone his size should be able to. Nightingale was already waiting there, crouching by the stairs with a weapon in her hand. Once they were out and onto the landing, voices from downstairs carried clearly, "Damn it, Patrick! I thought you cared about this city. About me." Rook didn't recognize her voice, though her fury was impossible to miss. Nightingale feigned a tactical SWAT hand movement that made no sense to Rook and then crawled closer to the stairs. Rook simply nodded and followed her with Zeke behind him. Together they snuck closer, Nightingale at the lead as they tried to get a better view. "I do, Aisling," Patrick said, sounding more than a little defensive. "Why do you think I've been helping you all this time? You never would have learned where that damn artifact was if I hadn't." "Then why are you bailing on me?" the girl responded. Something heavy smashed with the sound of splintering wood. "You think I'm safer doing this on my own?" By then, Rook had made it far enough down the stairs that he could glance over the banister at the speakers. Patrick had his back to the bar, surrounded by debris. Broken bottles, a shattered chair, and an ocean of playing cards made the floor by his boots almost disappear. The woman facing Patrick was nearly as tall as Patrick himself, with long red pigtails and clothes all of tight white fabric. She had a bandage over one eye, and the other was wild with frenzied emotion. "Aisling, listen." Patrick had his hands in front of him defensively and wasn't reaching for a weapon. "There's a better way. But if we resort to the same techniques..." A board squeaked under Nightingale's feet, and she swore under her breath. Aisling's head snapped around at the sound. "Who the hell are you?" She sounded even angrier than she had been a moment earlier. "You know what? I don't care." She kicked the nearest table leg so sharply that it splintered, sending the whole thing crashing down in front of her. "Forget it, Patrick. You've obviously got your hands full with the inn or whatever. If you ever grow a goddamn backbone, you know where to find me." "Aisling, wait," Patrick called after her. She ignored him, vanishing out the door and into the early morning light. They made their way down onto the ground floor, a mixture of shame and curiosity on their faces. Instead of screaming at them, Patrick got a broom from behind the counter and started sweeping up broken glass. "Hey, so you guys hear all that?" "Yeah," Nightingale said, now fully awake. "Pretty much." Patrick leaned back on the counter, sighing deeply. Look, you guys keep your mouths shut and you can stay tomorrow for free." "Keep our mouths shut about what?" Remy's voice came from the stairs, sounding strained. She stumbled out, hands rubbing gently at her temples. She didn't exactly wait for an answer. "Anybody got an aspirin?" "I've got black coffee." Patrick ran one hand through his beard, glancing behind the counter and into the kitchen. "Well, I had black coffee. I could put another pot on, though. Just let me get this mess cleaned up before anyone else wakes up." Nightingale reached out, touching Patrick's arm. "Hey, Patrick, it's a deal. We won't tell anyone." "Good." He relaxed visibly, picking up the broom again. "Thanks." After a few moments, Zeke approached, waving a piece of paper in the air. "No way," he said with a dumbfounded look. "Check this out, guys." The piece of paper in his hand contained a picture of a grotesque-looking animate. Nightingale snatched it out of his hand and held it up. "Ha! We've seen this guy before. Actually fought him. Hey, is this the reward poster? Does this mean we get a reward if we killed him?" Patrick snatched it out of her hand and looked. "You guys killed a warden?" It was strange that Patrick was helping them as much as he was, but his inn offered a wide selection of impressive gear, and there really wasn't any reason not to shop before departing.